We have Nick and Don from Binary Stream on who's going to show us how multi-entity management works with Business Central. And then we also have Brian and Joel on from TM Group. And Joel's going to show us the solver reporting solution, give you kind of a high level of that for financial reporting. Today, I believe you have like around 28 companies, 100 and some checkbooks. And I know it's a struggle managing or logging in and out of companies, consolidating, all that fun stuff. So we invited the guys from Binary Stream to show the multi-entity management solution for Business Central. We'll start there because I think if we had just gone through kind of a straight up financial demo, there'd be a lot of questions about how we handle the intercompany and the multiple entities, and so we can just kind of handle that all together here. And then after that, we want to focus on the financial reporting side of it, and Joel will be helping us with that. So if that sounds good to everybody, I'll turn it over to Nick and Don at Binary.
Great, thanks a lot, Christopher. Hi, everybody. Thanks for joining us today. My name's Nick Petrolini. I work for Binary Stream. I'm a partner success manager. Don Ramsey on the phone with me. He's our solution consultant and our expert in everything multi-entity management. A little bit of an introduction to Binary Stream as well as a company. We've been working with Microsoft's suite of ERP systems, GP specifically, for a number of years, for over 20 years now. And then now with the switch over to the D365 ERP solutions, being able to port over our solutions, multi-entity management being our flagship in 2000, and moving that over to Business Central over the last few years, and seen quite a bit of success in that regard as well. With our partnership with Microsoft as an independent software vendor, we exclusively focus on Microsoft's ERP suite. So what we've been able to accomplish with that partnership and exclusive partnership is that all of our solutions, Mem included, are integrated directly within the code of the ERP system itself. So as you'll see when Don gets into the demo here in a short little while, it's going to look and feel at every window, every screen you're going to look at is going to be the same feel as Business Central is out of the box. It's just going to add that next layer of functionality when we're talking about how to manage multiple entities within Business Central and your intercompany transactions between those entities as well. We've also been gold certified ISV by Microsoft, again, sort of just accentuating that high level of integration and good relationship that we have with Microsoft, and recently passed our 2,000 customer mark, which a large majority of that is multi-entity management, with that solution being around for quite a while. But now into the solution and a little preview of what you'll see today in the demo. First and foremost, what multi-entity management is going to accomplish in BC environment is the ability to maintain all of your company records within a single BC company. And what that's going to get us to is the ability to have one single set of master records per Business Central instance that those entities are combined within. And then from there, be able to automate a lot of the intercompany transaction processing, with the ability to still lock down the security of what users see and which entities they can interact with, as well as which entities they can, even see the records of. So that's that flexibility of maintaining segregation of entities. If that's what you desire, that's still available to you as well, even though those entities are within that same instance. And then finally, the ability to add or remove entities as acquisitions are made. I know your company is growing quite quickly, and so there's obviously going to be a lot of change and a lot of adjustment that needs to be done to the organizational structure. And multi-entity management is not only going to not stop you from being able to do that within Business Central, but it will actually simplify that process quite a bit, as Don will get into as well in the demo. If there's nothing right now in terms of questions, I'll pass things over to Don to show off the product.
All right. So obviously, I'm hoping you can see a Business Central screen there now.
Yes.
All right. So as we're looking at Business Central here, if I wanted to go to a different company in Business Central native, like this is Cronus Canada, Maybe I want to go and see Cronus USA. Well, when I look at my company selection under Business Central, you're going to very immediately hopefully see that there is no other companies. There's just this Cronus Canada. Now, Nick did point out that if you've got different fiscal year ends or different home currencies, yes, you'll have a different BC company for each. But we can tie those together as well. But for this presentation, we're going to assume that everything's going into this Business Central company. So how many companies can I have? I know one that's got 1,500, all sitting inside one Business Central company. So how do we do it? Well, it's not a matter of an overlay. It's not a matter of fooling Business Central. It's a matter of using some of the built-in power of Business Central to help us out. So we look at the dimension value. Dimension value, as you probably already realize, basically replaces the segmentation in GP. In BC, you've got one segment account. That's it. But the dimensions allow you to use any combination. A dimension could be fund, a dimension could be department, a dimension could be division. Makes no difference, and you use them or you don't. They're there, they exist, but they only take up space when they're actually used in a transaction or as a filter. So with all the dimensions we can have, which I don't know of any limit, I know that there is a reality in that there are only 2 global dimensions in Business Central. So we're going to take one of them and we're going to make it our company. So then in my case, it's pretty obvious. I've even called it company. When I look at my values, well, there's my values. Now, you can tell by the title that these look like business units, and they are. It is still Global Dimension 1. We haven't recoded it. We haven't fooled it in any way. We're just simply adding our corporate layer of security on top of that. Now, if I wanted to add a new company, I could say something like this, tab, and we'll say 920. I'm done. I've just added a new company. And potentially in that new company, I may not have to add any chart of accounts. I may not have to add any vendors, any customers. I may just have to share what I've already got. So theoretically, in a matter of a very short time, less than an hour, I could have this company up and running completely if I so desired. So it's not the same as other ERPs where there's a lot of work in getting a company set up, even in Business Central. There's quite a bit of work in getting another Business Central set up because you have to add your chart of accounts, add your vendors, add your customers, and so on and so forth. So now, how do I make it unique? Well, you'll notice this Mem entity setup up top. When I look at that, I've got my company name, my tax reg numbers, my logos, my email. I've got my billing address, my shipping address. So you get the idea. We're building into the system separate company information on a company by company basis. So again, doesn't matter how many. You just simply fill in the details when you're ready to fill them in. We can even do things like lock down document numbers on a per company basis. So we have security built into the system that says, hey, this particular preface cannot be used in any other company other than company 000. And not only that, we're going to automate its appearance when we open the transaction window. So there's no making a mistake. There's no forgetting about it. There's no inadvertently using the wrong one. It's going to be locked to a particular company and away we go. Now, if I go back up, one other thing that's good to keep in mind is we can assign bank accounts. Now, I understand from my notes you have a lot of bank accounts. Well, here, I've got a few, not as many as you, but I've got a few bank accounts. They may be owned by company 000, or they may be shared or not. Entirely up to you again. So I could only have one bank account here. I could have one bank account for all my companies that are in this particular setup if I want to. And I could just let the do to the froms make sure everything stays balanced. But that's all within your control. You don't have to do it in one way or the other. You can still have 75 bank accounts if you wanted to, or you could cut that down dramatically if you want to. All your call. So now we've identified our companies. So at this stage of the game, we've got a dimension value for our company. We've named it and put address information in, nothing too dramatic there. So when I start to set up multi-entity, I'm going to start off at the very highest level. So in here, there's my global dimension 1 that's now going to represent my company for company security. I've got single set of master records. Please understand that. I'm in one Business Central company, so I'll have one chart of accounts. I'll have one set of vendors. I'll have one set of customers and everything else that you see here. One set. I don't need duplicates. Does that mean I can't have duplicates? Sure you can. If you've got some particular reason for maybe a difficult address or location or something, that's fine. but you only have to have one set of master records to fill all this in. Now you'll notice I've got security enabled for my customers and warehouses and vendors and so on and so forth. And there is where I explained I could lock down my number series so it's only used by a particular company. So I've done that. So I'll show you that. You don't have to lock anything down. You can leave everything open and shared. Again, entirely up to you. Now, if I go down a little bit further, you notice in my purchase and payable setup, I've got decentralized inactive. What does that mean? When I cut a batch of checks to pay some vouchers, pay some vendors, it's going to all come out of one bank account, is what I'm telling the system right here. Does that mean I have to do all companies at the same time? No. Can I? Yes. Any combination at all from one to all the companies you have access to, but it'll be one bank account. If I wanted to, I could activate this and say, you know what? I got 75 bank accounts. I want to keep them all busy. So we'll use all 75. And I can still do one batch as an AP clerk, but all the bank accounts will be defaulted based on who owns the voucher. Either way, I'm going to do it centralized for the demo, but you get the idea. One final little point that might be of interest is this. In GP, you've got a company segment, and that's it, as far as Mem is concerned. In Business Central, you can have the company segment with its due to froms, but you can also have 3 other dimensions and have due to froms range for them at all as well. And one of the biggest users of this would be companies like a utility company or something of that effect that is funded by funds. They not only have companies, but they also have funds, and they can't mix the fund dollars either. So they have 2 sets of due to froms. Again, you can have up to 4 sets of due to froms. So pretty powerful. So now we're starting to nail down how we're going to configure the security. We've got a dimension for the company. We've set the company up. Now let's take a look at the users. My users, and I'm going to focus this by entity. A little pivot table here. Company 000. These names are every user set up in the SQL database that Business Central is sitting on. Every user that you might have for any purpose in there. Now, when we want to use them with Business Central and multi-entity enabled, we get to restrict what users get to see company 000. If I scroll myself down far enough, you'll see me. So I can work with company 000. Now keep in mind, as I show you this, I am the administrator of Mem. I'm a super user. So I have access to everything. But if I do not give myself access to a particular company, like not company 6, and by the way, not 6, 7, 8, or 9, as a user, when I go to do transactions or run inquiries or run reports, I have no access to company 6, 7, 8, 9. I would have to come back in here and check myself off to give myself access to that particular company. So now we set the company up. We've started to limit who can see each company. I said there's one set of master records. If I take a look perhaps at my vendor file, company 000, there's every vendor I've got in the system. Every vendor for all companies. That's it. Now, this company sees them all. If I was to pop over, say, to company 400, their master list from a user perspective would look like 3 vendors, and that's it. They couldn't inadvertently or accidentally even know that the other vendors exist unless you want them to. So we can really restrict human error in the sense of using a vendor or a customer or an item or a warehouse location that they should not be using. We can lock it out so they don't even see it. So they can't even do it accidentally. So every single customer, company, pardon me, can have its own set, different 3 here, so on and so forth. So you get control now over how the company looks from the sake of master record files. You can restrict what they see as vendors or customers or anything else. So we're getting there to the point that we could actually start doing some business. But we do need, now you can imagine, Cronus Canada being a single Business Central company, it's never, ever going to ask you for due to froms, because it's going to continue thinking that everything is done under this Cronus Canada umbrella. So now that we've got Mem set up by dimension value, we need to have our own due to from set up. So you notice company 0 to company 200 here. Now, I've been an accountant for a few decades. I'm kind of anal about this. So this is not a multi-segment structure. It's just that BC lets you use hyphens. I see company 0 owes company 200. I see company 0 is owed from company 200. Now, they don't all have to be different. That's me. I like to know that whatever's in this account is only what's owed by company 0 to company 200 and nothing else is in the mix. Keep in mind what Mem is doing. It's separating your companies one from another. So in Mem, you would restrict what company information any user can see. But through your roles and tasks, your roles in Business Central, you can restrict what a user is able to do in any company. Two separate issues. So Mem is going to focus on company access. What companies can see what vendors, what users can see what companies, and so on and so forth. And by the way, I'm showing you a very manual process. Just understand that you can also import most of these setups through a CSV or an XML file, or Excel itself, as you know, has very good relationship with Business Central. And you can often export data, bring data in. So there's lots of ways of populating these fields without having to do it one row at a time. But you do have to populate them. So now I've got my do's and froms set up. I'm good to go. What can we do now that we've got all these companies together in one little structure? Well, we could do something like this. We can create these allocation templates. Now, you know there's fixed and variable allocations in GP at the finance level. With Mem, you get these allocations also at the AP and AR and so on and so forth. Well, similar here, but even more powerful. Let's say I want this template where I'm going to allocate either expenses or revenue across different companies. So I'll open it up. Insurance template. When I post, and let's stick with purchases for now. When I post a purchase invoice, no matter what the dollars are, Mem is going to break it out so that 10% goes here, 5 here, and so on and so forth, automatically. And you're going to be able to see it in behind that particular transaction window. When I say it, the distributions. All the due to and froms will be there. All the expense allocations to other companies will be there. And again, all revenue if you're using it on that side. So you can very easily create as many of these as you like. And even though the template is fixed, I mean, you can modify it now about a minute. But typically the template's not what you modify when you're posting a transaction. You can go into the actual window, whether it be a purchase invoice or something to that effect, and you can modify these percentages for that transaction. So you do have a measure of control here. But you can imagine one of our companies that has several hundred companies and they have templates that cover them all. It's one posting, one transaction, and they're done, and the expenses are shared or the revenue is shared across your company. So again, no limit on how many you have, but it does simplify to some extent some of the transactions that you might be wanting to do on a regular basis. Now, if I look at my organizational structure here, so I want to stress what this is. This is primarily designed to handle what's happening with your due to, do froms, your intercompany transactions. So for example, company 3 has a couple of children, 4 and 5, and the same thing with company 7. I can dictate that these 3 companies have no due to, do froms between them because they're the same company for reporting purposes. Or I could say, you know what, when 4 works with 2, the due to, do froms have to go through 3. That kind of thing. So there's a lot of different configurations that you can do. I can disable it, force it to go through the parents, whatever the case might be. Now, what else can I do? Well, depending on how much this interests you, I could edit this list here, go right down to process, and then you see advanced disable. It is conceivable that you may want to say, you know what, when I'm doing a general journal between company, well, I got 9, 20, you can ignore that. Say 3 and 4 and 5. I do not want due to, do froms. I'll click this on and there'd be no due to, do froms. Or maybe I want them at the sales part, but I don't want them at the cash receipt. Now, this is rarely used, so I can't give you great examples, but we do have a customer that this was extremely important for because their general journals, they never want due to, do froms. They're self-balancing journal entries to reallocate things back and forth, and that's it. No due to, do froms. They enable that, and they were happy. So keep that in mind. There's a lot of power in how the due to, do froms get calculated, when they get calculated, even if they get calculated through this particular setup. And again, it's totally a voluntary setup. If you don't need it, you don't use it, but it's there if things change down the road. And finally, notice we have a thing called Mem Block Dimension. Let's forget about Mem. BC itself allows you to block dimensions and allows you to force dimensions to work together. So we could say, if it's head office, they never do sales, so let's not let them do anything with the department sales. They can't use it, so you can't make a mistake. Or it might be it's head office, you've got to use IT or administration. So you can say one or the other, but you got to use one. That kind of thing can be done now, later, at any point in time. You can lock it down tighter if you see the need to do just exactly that. So that's the high-level overview of how Mem fits in with Business Central. It's kind of like an app on a smartphone, right? It does a specific job for you based on your specific need. So now you can add companies, take away companies without any real hassle. They're all sitting here in this one environment for you. Let's go look at a standard transaction, purchase invoice. What I want you to notice here is a couple of little things that you can catch your eye and say, that's where Mem sits in. Most users won't see that. For example, here's a standard drop-down list for your purchase invoices. We have this dimension value over here. BC says, yeah, it's a dimension value, big deal. Mem says, that's my company, company 0. All right. Now, if I open up the transaction, we're going to look at what looks like at first pass a standard Business Central window, except it's got this dimension value here. Now, Mem makes this mandatory because it has to know who owns the transaction for obvious reasons. But most users won't even notice that. It's just a dimension value. Now, over in the far right, you've got that allocation template, which could even be removed from the window if you don't want to ever use them. So you could take that right out of there altogether and hide it. This has to stay, and the company column has to stay. We need to know who is responsible for each and every line. Could it be the same company? Well, absolutely. But could it be different companies? Also, absolutely. So company 0 gets the payable, company 100 gets the expense. So I would expect, if I was to take a peek at the posting here, I would expect to see a due to, due from. And I know I will. But the bottom line is this is not where a user ever has to go. An auditor might go here, or manager finance might go here. But typically, this doesn't have to be open for any transaction, but there it is. Company 100 gets the expense. Company 00 gets the AP, and there's your due to, from. 100% behind the initial transaction. All right. So again, for any companies in one particular Business Central install with Mem, it'll always be right here like this in behind the transaction. So if I back out of here, very, very simply, let's put this back to 000. Let's add an allocation template that we talked about a few minutes ago. So there's my insurance allocation template there, locked in place. Very quickly, go back to posting. And obviously, we're going to see a very different set of due to, due froms. And why is that? Well, because I'm allocating it out. My admin department, my prod department, no due to, due froms because it's all company 000. And then all my other companies in the appropriate amount of the due to, due from. So again, think of it from an audit perspective, 100% balanced right here in behind the actual transaction itself. And you can't change the numbers. No way of going in there and playing with that like you can in GP. It's done, it's locked in place. Very, very powerful from the perspective of, as a user, you don't have to think about the due to, due froms or the allocation to different companies. You just simply do your transaction. Now, this was locked into 00 here, grayed out, as you can see, because I've started the transaction. If I back out of here, let's just do that and create a new one. Notice the company I'm working in by default, company 000. Notice my number series is now locked in, but I can also, I want to work in company 400. Now I've locked in a different number series, and now I'm working in company 400. I'll look at my vendor series here. Remember I showed you that? 3 vendors, that's it. The other 10 or 12 or 15 or whatever it is, who knows where they are. Once I click on a vendor, watch what happens to the left-hand column on the body. It gets locked in to the company that I signed in with. So it's going to assume that you are going to continue working in this one company, because not every transaction crosses other companies. But as you can see, this is not grayed out. So I could have 400 in this line, 100 in this line, 000 on this line. Anything that I need that's appropriate to the transaction I'm doing that day. So if you think about it for a moment, I've got one Business Central company, but I've got 10 companies, maybe even 11 now, set up with Mem. And I can work in all of them if I've been given access right here in this one window. I never have to approach, log out of this one, log into the next one. Never becomes a reality whatsoever. So that's a standard purchase transaction. Does that make sense to everybody? Any questions? No? Okay.
Sounds great to me.
Oh, perfect. Thank you for letting me know. All right, let's look at the other side of the equation here for a second. Let's go to posted sales invoices. Now, I'm not going to go to the invoice. Well, actually, I should. Let me just open one up here just for a quick second. What I want you to see, and the only reason I'm opening it up is you notice company code in the header, company column. So very, very quickly, it's going to become very familiar to you or to a user. They'll just think it's standard out of the box Business Central. I know that because I know the 20 years it's been around in business in the GP, people come to us with questions and think, oh, I didn't know we had MEM. I thought it was just GP. So here's a standard window again. You notice I've got my dimension value here, which BC thinks is a normal dimension. If I scroll down, I'm going very quickly here, but you're not going to find anywhere in my scroll down anything for company 6, 7, 8, and 9. No error messages, no mistakes, no grayed out areas. Even though I'm the super user, I'm the administrator, they just don't exist for me. But here's what I like about it from an accounting perspective. Let's search for a document. Company 0, oh, look at that, company 400. If I was to say, what is that, number 8? If I just number 8, I just found a document in company 400. Could be company 25, could be company 35, could be company 350. Doesn't matter. As long as I have access, I can use a single drop-down window and go search to my heart's content for that particular company. As a matter of fact, I might say, hey, what's Coho been doing lately? Oh, look at that. Company 400, company 0, company 2, company 1. Again, all the companies I have access to, the documentation just simply drops down because it's a standard Business Central list, and this is a standard Business Central dimension value. So it doesn't cause any harm to the way BC works out of the box. But now I can use the search capabilities to greatly enhance the way I find information for all the companies I'm responsible for. That's something I like from my accounting background when I used to be a business analyst. Now, something else, if I was to do a payment journal, we talked about setting the default to be centralized, all right? There's my company in the header and my company column. You won't find an allocation template here because it makes no sense. So let's create or prepare a batch to pay. When I open up this standard Business Central here, even this dimension filter here could be just from Business Central, but that is my companies. Again, company 0 to 5. So I could select, as you probably already know, this company 0, 2, and 5 to do a check run for. Fine. Or I could select them all to do a check run for. Also fine. Now, I'm doing this one central, but if I was doing it decentral, also fine. No extra work. So here's my grayed out switch that says, hey, you have to talk to the administrator if someone's told you to do these decentralized. My company filter is off. In other words, don't filter anything out. I'm going to go by bank account rather than GL account. We'll say bank account, and the bank accounts that this company has access to are these ones. So we'll pick a company. Am I good to go? I got a filter date. I got a company filter off. I'm going to do centralized. Let's go take a look. So when this pops up, what I'm going to see is a big batch that I could just simply go and post, be done with it, standard BC structure, no problem with there. However, if you'll notice, company 5, company 3, company 1, but look at the bank accounts 3/4 of the way over. It's all the default bank account for company 000, the one I chose upon setup. Everything's there, all set up, ready to go for us. The appropriate due to do froms would take place because this is company 5's voucher, this is company 3's voucher, this is company 100's voucher. If I had decided to do decentralized, and some companies still choose to stick with that, company 500's bank would have shown up on this line, company 300's bank on this line, company 100's bank on this line, and so on and so forth. Still no extra work for the payables clerk. When they post this, either it gets broken up into a batch per bank account, or it's all one batch in this case, also per bank account. So that's how it works. Very, very simple. As far as the user is concerned, they can pay a lot more bills in a substantial hurry. And this is the same basic functionality you'll find in GP. The ability to do centralized or decentralized, have the batches broken up automatically on a per bank basis, all done behind the scenes. Nobody has to do anything manually. Just go in, select the vouchers you want to pay, and pay them in the way you want to pay, and you're done. Any questions of the payment journals that make sense? I hope. It's one of the more favorite ones that people seem to like as far as the functionality is concerned. All right, so let's back out of here. I got to watch my time. I don't want to go overtime with you guys. So if you think about it, oh, I should show you this. Let's go back. Let's go to the general journal because we've done sales side and we've done purchase side. Oh, did I not type that right? Back up, put a U in there. So when we look at the journals, and there's several that come, I think it's half a dozen different ones that come with BC. You notice company, and look at that. I can do an allocation at the GL level as well. And there's my company column again. So in all these cases, it doesn't matter what window you're looking at. If that particular functionality would allow you to work in different companies, you're going to have the company code in the header and the company column in the body. So hopefully in your mind's eye, you can say, this is going to be really easy to learn, to get the hang of, because it's only a very minor change on most of the transactions themselves. Keep in mind that all I'm doing now is filtering on a dimension value, the one that I chose to be my company. So I can do things like this now. If I go say Mem trial, and I'll go to my reports here, and there's all my different versions of trial balances. So let's do previous year. Pick that one, and we got a company filter again. So this is where I say what companies I want this trial balance for. Well, I'm going to leave them and take all. So I'm going to say as of 123/1/2021, what have I got? Well, we can send this to Excel, to Word, to a PDF, to a scheduler, which is kind of cool to run on a regular basis, or we can just look at it. So if I just look at this, I'm going to get a consolidated trial balance comparative for companies 0 to 5. And there it is. And it's 9 pages long, and it's every one of my accounts, as you can see, single segment account structure. But dimensions allow me to filter and separate if I need to. Now, this is all consolidated. So if I was to go back out and type Mem again, let's do an income statement this time. I've got income statement consolidated, income statement by entity. So let's pick it out. So I'm going to put a starting date. Oh, yeah, 2/1. Yeah, okay. So I've got 1 year, 2021, and let's preview it. Now, when this one pops up, I should get company 0 to 500. Well, company 0 is there. There's the details. Company 100, company 200, company 300, and so on and so forth. Now, again, if you're using one of these outside reporting tools, you can build this in a much fancier fashion in those tools and have all the drill down capabilities you want. But I wanted you to realize it's already there because of utilizing an existing BC functionality, the ability to filter out, whether it be your trial balance, your income statement, your balance sheet. As a matter of fact, one of the more popular ones is this one here. If I say Mem vendor and open up my 22 Mem vendor reports, scroll down to the bottom, detailed trial balance by entity. Remember I said that you got one master record file. So I've got one Fabricam, for example, as a vendor. Watch this report. I like this from an accounting perspective as well, personally. So when this report pops up, let's make it really wide here so we can see it easier. Head office, company 000, Fabricam, 5.4 million. Company 100, facility 1989, Fabricam, 208,000, and so on, and so on, and so on. One master record called Fabricam, but Mem treats it as if it is a vendor per entity. So it tracks all the dollars, all the cents, keeps them separated out from each other, and you get an accurate aging based on a company by company structure based on ownership of the document itself. So if company 300 owns the document that gets posted, it's going to show up in the dollars and cents here. If company 000 owns it, it's going to show up under company 000. And yet one master record file. That's something that I find makes life a whole lot easier when you're trying to keep your data separate but handy. You don't have to go to 9 different, or in your case, what, 35 or whatever it might be, different BC companies to find all your information, or build a lot of specialized reports. Now, you also notice that I didn't need a consolidation company here. Can you have one? Yeah, absolutely. Especially if you're going to open 3 or 4 different Business Central versions, each with their own currency. You might still want a consolidation, but the bridge product we're bringing out fixes that as well, or brought out actually, fixes that as well. So that is Mem at a very high level with all the functionality that I can think of to show you. Let me just open up another window just so you get the feel. Fixed assets here. Company code. Open up the fixed asset. Belongs to company 0, and I can add the sales department. No problem at all. There was no sweat doing that. Again, think of it from the perspective of what did we change? Nothing. This is still a dimension in Business Central. And yet with the Mem security layer on it, we can do so much more with it. So we can depreciate this asset. We'll depreciate the company 000. The next asset that might belong to somebody else will depreciate the company 100, company 0, company 100, company 200, and so on and so forth. So when I'm purchasing, I'm not sure if you know this already, but when I'm purchasing a document or a transaction of any type, let's just show you very quickly. If I open up that travel one again and I go at a different line, if I wanted to add a different line, you notice it's going to default to the company I'm working in, but I could purchase this as a fixed asset. And away I go, attaching it to company 000. Or if I change this to 400 and put fixed asset, it would go to company 400. So you've got all sorts of ability very quickly, very easily to work in all the companies that you have access to. And as you noticed, I moved all over the place here. Never once concerned myself with the basic initial Business Central company setup. It becomes my container, if you will, for all my activity with all the multiple companies. So I'll leave it at that for now. You can, if you want, close this off here. I can take, say, this personal piece of equipment here. And if I wanted to, I can assign this to a company, and then I can put restrictions on it so that other companies can't see it. So it's still one massive item list, but I can say this item number 1000 belongs only to company 000. Or I can leave it owned by company 000. And remember I showed you in setup where I could share master records? So this might be owned by company 000. They bought it, it's their inventory, but you could take it, but you're going to owe them money. There'll be IOUs taken. So your work would be to set it up the way you like. Assign what inventory you want. And you don't have to assign it to a company. What you could do, just something to think about, is you could set up virtual warehouses and say everything in this warehouse is going to belong to company 200. Everything in some other warehouse will belong to somebody else. I'll just give you, hopefully this is the one I'm thinking of. Let me see if I can get a feel for this here. You notice this item reclass. So I'm going to move something from one company to another in our case, okay? So company 0 owns the reclass, but you notice company 0 is grayed out here, which is interesting. Here's why. It's in blue. I'm going to send it to yellow, okay? Let's change this. It's in yellow, if it'll let me do it. Let's send it to blue. Watch this number right here. That's now a 000. See what just happened? What I've done is I've said, I have this piece of inventory sitting in yellow warehouse. It belongs to company 000. I'm going to transfer it to company blue's warehouse. Blue happens to be owned by company 200. So look what happened to the new company ownership. So any due to froms in the background would be populated for the cost of the product, whatever was sitting in inventory in company 0's will be transferred that cost over to company 200. Now it's in its inventory. Physically, you don't even have to move the item. You don't have to, because these can be virtual warehouses, right? But now I've transferred ownership to company 200. So all of that type of functionality is built in, even if I'm trying to think of, doesn't matter what I'm doing in inventory, I can assign items to a company. I can assign items to a warehouse that belongs to a certain company. I can transfer them around, I can hide them, or I can share them. And whenever I do use somebody else's inventory, it's going to get dinged, all right, by due to from. So if I want to track those due to froms, one way, I'll show you a report way to do that, and I can send this report to, and I'm going to give you another example just in a second since you brought that up. So if I look at my reports here, my intercompany trial balance, well, let me do it. Yeah, once a date filter. I figured as much. Let's try it. Let's try it in. All right, so let's figure this out. I'm just going to look at this. It's not a pretty report right now. We're still working on that. But keep in mind, again, if you're using an outside tool, you'll be able to drill down and get every single detail. So intercompany is owed, due from 100, due to 100. There's all the dollar amounts for all the transactions up to December 31st. So you could do a bank transfer or just a journal entry and eliminate them all out if you want to. Whatever works for you. Now, in my case, you could also do this. When this finally shows up, it's going to give me a list of my due to from accounts. Because keep in mind, they're standard everyday Business Central accounts. So if I look at this one right here, it's company 0 is owed from company 100. So if I look at the details, there is every single transaction in that ledger. You notice right now it says only company zero because this particular account is on company zero's behalf. What is it owed from company 100? Well, there it is, every transaction, every dollar and cent. And as you probably already saw, just dump her in Excel and analyze it there if you want to. So this is something that's built into the system, but understand you can build your own reports, you can build your own account schedules, you can build something in an outside reporting tool that will drill down, pardon me, and get this exact information for you. As a matter of fact, I wanted to show you one more thing there. I apologize for backing out on you. Do that again. Let's go to the chart of accounts. And what I want to do is scroll down here, and I'm going to look at the vendor's domestic, 22,300. Same account number for all my companies, but Mem in the background is going to make sure that account number, every single company that uses it, is separated. So I could filter this and say, just give me everything for company 400, company 0, company 100, whatever I want. Not only that, I can take a look at the dollars and cents and go, $800,000. What was that? I can open it up if I want to. Oh, there's my entry. Find my entries. This is just standard BC, so you might have already seen this. You might already know that. Well, there's my due to the from 200 to 200. There's my expenses. This is the actual document distribution list behind that purchase invoice that was created. So hopefully you get the idea that I'm running around all over the place here just using basic out of the box BC functionality, but I'm looking at information for every company I have access to effortlessly. No extra time, no extra work whatsoever in order to find the data. Do you ever have a need for arm's length transactions? Let's say that I have multiple companies here. Where am I at? Let's just open up this one. So I've got this entity list here, right? I could set up a customer for company 000 and a vendor for company 100 and do a sale and a purchase, no due to froms. So there would actually be an AP and an AR between those two companies. We do have clients that have some company relationships that they're not permitted to do due to froms between. They have to have arm's length. So we can do that as well. And we would provide you with an arm's length report. I haven't got it all set up, so I apologize. So if I go back to Mem enter here, I'll open up my reports. You notice we got this trade elimination report here. If I open this up, just to give you a visual of it, company 0 did business with company 100. Here was the document number and the date. Here was the gross amount, the discount, the net sales, the cost of goods sold, and the tax. And it would be page after page, theoretically, with some of our partners. Does it make sense? So there's no due to the froms. There's a payable and there's a receivable. Now, what's really powerful about this is if I create the payable, Mem will automatically create the receivable. If I create the receivable, Mem will automatically create the payable. So it eliminates human error again. If you're going to work between a vendor and a customer that belong internally, Mem will do the other half of the transaction, so it's always balanced, always accurate. But then you've eliminated any need for due to froms. When you set up the dimension value, set up something that's just easy to be way at the end, like I did with the account structure. All my due to froms are at the end of the chart of accounts. You can do the same thing with a company name, because keep in mind, when I showed you dimensions, I said company 000, company 900. It could have been, John Doe's private business or something that, no, man, I don't think that's too many letters, I think it's 25 letters tops. But you can put it alphanumeric is my point. These are the boring built-in reports, so I apologize. But I could have, so for example, a trial balance here, and I could filter that trial balance by my company, right? And I could leave a company out if I wanted to. Then I could go around and I could say, well, I got other filters here. Now, I don't know if I'll be able to find it really, really quickly, but I could say, where's departments? Department code. I could say, and I want it filtered by department sales or department, I don't know, administration or something to that effect. So you can have multiple filters on your reports as well. Again, because it's dimensions and that's standard native BC power. All right. And we utilize it with Mem, so we just enhance that capability. We don't limit it. If you wanted to, Power BI, as you probably already know, works very well with, I shouldn't say comes with, there's licensing, but it works very, very well with Mem as well. So you can have Power BI reports giving you, ad hoc income statements, financial statements, or sales, or whatever you want as well. So a tremendous amount of reporting tools all work with Mem and give you all the access you need to data and all the views you need for data. I know I'm probably cutting into Solver's time, and I apologize.
All right, then I think we'll catch our breath a second here and shift over to Joel if you're ready, Joel.
I think so.
Yep.
All right. So I'm Joel Peterson with TM Group.